Writing as a mirror, Wally Lamb discovered that storytelling isn't just about characters. It's about revealing the self hiding behind the pen. When Wally Lamb sat down to write The river is waiting he thought he was going to write about others. About characters, about stories that lived outside of himself, but what he didn't expect, what shook him to his core, was that the process of writing would become a mirror, a reflection, and it didn't flatter him. It didn't let him off easy. It showed him the raw, unfiltered version of himself. That's what writing does when it's real. It reveals you, and that truth, it's uncomfortable, but it's also transformational. So, here's what I want you to understand. The page doesn't lie. You can't fake it with the page. You can try to tell the story you think the world wants to hear, but if it's not authentic, the story will feel hollow. That's what Wally Lamb learned. The deeper he tried to go into his characters, the more he was forced to ask, why do I feel this scene so personally? Why does this dialogue sound like something I once said? Why am I suddenly thinking about that memory I locked away 20 years ago? And that's when it hits you. You're not writing to escape yourself. You're writing to find yourself. Now here's where it gets real. Writing isn't therapy, but it becomes therapeutic when you stop editing who you are. Wally wasn't just creating characters. He was unknowingly sketching fragments of his soul, the guilt, the doubt, the ache to be seen. It came out through people with different names, different faces, but at their core, they were him. They were his questions, his fears, his deepest longing for redemption, for peace, for belonging. And maybe that's what you're afraid of too, not the writing, but what the writing will uncover. We all wear masks. Some of us call them confidence. Some of us call them humor. Some of us call them control. But the moment you put your pen to paper with the intention to tell the truth, even if you don't know what that truth is yet, the mask begins to slip. And when it does, you see parts of yourself you didn't want to admit existed. That's what Wally faced. That's what any honest creator faces. You think you're writing fiction, but suddenly you're staring into your own life and realizing, this river I thought I was writing about. I've been drowning in it. Let me tell you something else. Growth doesn't come from the surface. You don't evolve by staying in the shallow end. Wally had to go into the depths of his own past, confront the shame, the regrets, the decisions that haunted him. And here's what's so powerful. He didn't back away. He stayed with it. Because when you stay with it, when you keep writing, keep facing, keep questioning, something starts to change. That mirror you feared, it doesn't just reflect pain, it begins to reflect strength, resilience, insight, and for the first time you realize you were never weak for feeling broken. You were brave for showing up anyway, and that's the lesson here. The page becomes a place where you meet yourself halfway, and it doesn't demand that you be perfect. It just asks that you be honest, and when you are, your work will carry a pulse, a heartbeat. People won't just read your words, they'll feel them. Because they'll know they came from a place that was lived, not imagined. That's the gift Wally Lamb gave his readers, not polished prose or clever plots, but truth, vulnerable, cracked open truth that said, you're not alone in this. I've felt it too. So what do you do with that? You stop running from the page. You stop trying to write what's impressive and start writing what's real. You sit in front of that mirror, as hard as it is, and you say, okay. I'm ready, show me who I am. And that's where transformation begins. Not just in your writing, but in your life. Because once you've seen yourself clearly, you can never go back to living in the blur. And isn't that the point? Isn't that the break through we all crave? Let me know if you want the next key point, expanded F, with the same intensity and voice. The power of vulnerability through exploring complex themes like trauma and healing. Lamb confronted his own emotional truths with courage. Wally Lamb didn't walk into writing the river is waiting expecting to be stripped bare emotionally. But that's exactly what happened, because vulnerability doesn't knock gently on the door. It kicks it open when you least expect it. You sit down to write thinking you're in control, and then your own story, your own scars, come flooding through the keys. That's what Wally learned. You can't tell a powerful story without risking something of yourself, And if you're not willing to feel, to bleed on the page, to break open, then don't expect your reader to feel anything either. Vulnerability is the bridge. Without it, your story goes nowhere. Listen to me. Vulnerability is not weakness. That is the biggest lie we've been taught. That if you cry, you're fragile. That if you admit you're afraid, you're not strong enough. But Wally Lamb proved the opposite. He dove into topics most people tiptoe around: trauma, abuse, mental illness, grief. And he didn't write them from a safe, clinical distance. He wrote them from the inside. Because he had lived them, he had witnessed them, he had been marked by them, and instead of hiding those marks, he let them show. That's courage, that's power, that's what makes readers sit up and say, *me too. Let me tell you, real healing begins when you stop pretending you're fine. When you stop writing from a polished version of yourself and start showing the mess. Because there is beauty in the mess. There is truth in it. And when Wally allowed himself to explore his own emotional truths, the guilt he carried, the pain he'd buried, the love he couldn't always name, he unlocked something sacred, something universal. Because when you speak your truth, no matter how imperfect or raw, you give others permission to do the same. That's how we build connection. That's how we build legacy. You might be thinking, but it's terrifying to put myself out there like that. Of course it is. Vulnerability feels like standing naked in front of a crowd with every flaw exposed. But here's the thing. People don't connect with perfection. They connect with humanity, with authenticity. When Wally Lamb allowed his characters to speak hard truths, it wasn't just for dramatic effect. It was because he knew the cost of silence. He knew what it meant to carry trauma in your body for years. He knew that pretending to be okay only delays the healing. So he gave his characters the voice he once had to fight to find for himself. That's not just storytelling, that's soul work. Here's what I want you to take from that if you want to grow. Not just as a writer, but as a human being. You must learn to sit with discomfort. You must be willing to say the thing you've never said out loud. To ask the question that makes your stomach tighten. To write the sentence that scares you. Because on the other side of that fear is freedom. It's growth. It's the version of you that's been waiting to emerge. Wally didn't grow from writing things that were easy. He grew by leaning into what was hard, what was honest, what was vulnerable. There's this myth that vulnerability is something you arrive at once and you're done. No, it's a practice, a daily decision. Every page Wally wrote forced him to ask, am I willing to go deeper? Am I willing to feel this fully? Am I willing to be seen not just as a writer, but as a man who has known pain? And every time he said yes, his writing got more powerful. His characters got more alive, and his readers walked away not just entertained, but transformed. You can do the same, but you have to stop guarding your heart like it's a museum artifact. You have to stop playing it safe, because safety doesn't lead to greatness. Vulnerability does. That moment you want to delete what you just wrote because it feels too exposed, keep it. That paragraph that made your eyes well up with tears because it hit too close to home. That's the one that needs to stay. That's the one someone out there is waiting to read because they've never had the words to say it themselves, and now you've given them that. You have no idea how powerful that is. When Wally Lamb wrote from vulnerability, he didn't just learn about his characters. He learned about his own capacity to heal, to forgive, to understand. He learned that being broken doesn't mean being beyond repair. It means being ready to be remade, and every time he wrote with honesty, he gave a piece of himself, not to be judged, but to be shared, to be held by others who needed that connection, that courage, that truth. Let me know if you want me to expand key point 3 next F with that same bold, truth-driven energy. Listening to the river within writing the river is waiting taught him to stop forcing life's flow and instead to listen and let meaning rise organically. Wally Lamb didn't just write the river is waiting he listened to it. And that distinction changes everything, because in a world that constantly pushes us to control, to force, to hustle our way through pain and progress, he chose something different. He chose surrender. He chose stillness. He chose to let the story unfold the way a river does, naturally, unpredictably, with curves, depth, undercurrents, and that choice revealed something profound. Sometimes the meaning we seek doesn't arrive when we demand it. It comes when we're quiet enough to hear it. And that's where so many people get stuck. They try to steer the flow. They try to write their life or their story like an outline, a to-be, problem to solution, pain to purpose, but life doesn't move in a straight line. It moves in swirls, detours, rapids, and still water. Wally had to unlearn the idea that he was in charge of where the river of his creativity would take him. He had to stop asking, "What should this story be?" and instead ask, "What is this story trying to show me?" And that question unlocked the truth. That's when the story started revealing its real depth, not as a plot, but as a revelation of his soul. Do you know how hard that is? To let go of control, to stop muscling your way through life, and instead sit back and feel. It's terrifying. It feels like giving up, but it's not giving up. It's waking up. When Wally stopped trying to write the perfect narrative and just listened to the current of his inner world, he found moments of unexpected clarity. Grief that hadn't been named, questions that had gone unanswered for decades, characters that spoke with the voice of his past. The river carried all of it, and when he stopped fighting it, he started understanding it. He started healing, so I'm asking you, when was the last time you actually listened? Not to noise, not to pressure, not to the voice in your head telling you to hurry up and be better. I mean really listened. To the ache in your chest, to the pull in your gut, to that whisper in the back of your mind saying, asterisk, there's something I haven't faced yet. Asterisk, that's the river. That's the part of you waiting to be heard. But you can't hear it if you're shouting over it with your expectations. You can't feel it if you're trying to skip to the resolution. You've got to sit in the water, let it touch you, let it move you. Let it take you places you didn't plan to go. Wally Lamb had to learn this the hard way. He wrote drafts that didn't feel right. He forced plot lines that sounded smart but felt hollow. And finally, when he stopped trying to control the process and just let the story breathe, it came alive. Not because he wrote it, but because he felt it. Because he trusted it. He didn't drag it forward, he followed it, and what he found along the way wasn't just a better story. It was a better understanding of himself. There's a part of you that already knows what's true, what needs to be said, what needs to be felt, but you've buried it under deadlines, distractions, ego, fear, and you're waiting for someone to give you permission to go there. I'm telling you right now, you don't need permission, you need presence. You need to stop demanding answers and start asking better questions. You need to stop controlling the narrative and start honoring the mystery. That's what Wally did, and that's why his story resonated, because it didn't feel engineered. It felt discovered. Here's what I want you to remember. The river doesn't need you to push it. It needs you to trust it. There will be moments when it slows down and you think nothing's happening, but something always is. Reflection, rebuilding, readiness. There will be moments when it speeds up and it's scary as hell and you feel like you're going to drown. But that's not the end. That's the transformation. Wally sat with those moments, as uncomfortable as they were, and instead of escaping them, he asked, asterisk, what are you trying to teach me? Asterisk, you want to grow. You want to heal. You want to write something that actually matters. Then stop writing to impress and start writing to understand. Let the silence speak. Let the pauses teach. Let the uncertainty become your guide. Because the truth is, your deepest wisdom isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the ripple beneath the surface. It's the thing you've avoided feeling. But once you let it rise, once you listen and not just write, it will carry you somewhere real. Somewhere human, somewhere honest. That's where Wally Lamb went. That's where asterisk the river is waiting asterisk took him. And that's where your greatest work, your truest self is waiting to take you to. Let me know if you're ready for me to expand key point 4 next F in this same heartfelt, powerful tone. Transformation through empathy by stepping into his character's pain. He grew more compassionate with his own imperfections. Wally Lamb didn't just write characters. He became them. He sat in their sorrow. He walked through their shame, he held their brokenness in his own chest until it started to feel like his, and that asterisk, is what changed him. He didn't just tell their stories, he let their stories transform him. That's what happens when you write with empathy. That's what happens when you stop trying to understand people and instead feel them. You don't stay the same, you can't, because suddenly you're seeing the world not through judgment, but through compassion. And the beautiful part, when you offer that kind of grace to your characters, you start learning how to offer it to yourself. It's easy to have empathy for characters on a page. They're fictional. You know their backstory. You see all the circumstances that led to their decisions, but what Wally Lamb discovered, and what I want you to hear, is that when you train yourself to do that on the page, something shifts in your heart. You start doing it in real life. You start softening toward people who once made your blood boil. You start seeing pain behind behavior. You start realizing, oh my God, everyone's just trying to survive something. And that realization. That's where healing begins, but it's not just about others. That's only half of it. The deeper truth Wally faced was this. If I can be that kind, that patient, that forgiving with the characters I invent, why can't I be that way with myself? And that question wrecks you. It stops you in your tracks, because most of us walk around holding ourselves hostage to every mistake, every flaw, every misstep. We replay the worst versions of ourselves and call it accountability, when really it's shame. But through writing, through walking through the pain of his characters, Wally Lamb began to see that maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to keep punishing himself to prove he cared. Maybe he could start healing, too. And let me tell you something powerful. When you start seeing yourself with empathy, everything changes. You stop measuring your worth by how perfect you've been. You start seeing value in the fact that you got back up. That you kept going. That you chose to grow instead of shrink. Wally's writing gave him that mirror, every character who was hurt but kept loving, every soul who was lost but still searching, every broken human who found a way to speak again. They weren't just storylines, they were lifelines. They were echoes of his own journey, and if he could forgive them, then maybe he could forgive himself too. That's why writing isn't just art, it's medicine, and not just for the reader, for the writer, for the soul doing the work. You don't come out of that kind of writing the same person who went in. You come out lighter, you come out softer. You come out able to look in the mirror and say, maybe I'm not as unlovable as I thought. Maybe I don't have to carry this guilt forever. Maybe, like my characters, I'm worthy of grace. That's what Wally learned, and that's what you need to hear, because maybe you're reading this and you've been beating yourself up for years. For something you said, for something you didn't do, for the way you handled your past, and you think being hard on yourself is the only way to stay good. But it's not. That's not goodness, that's grief. And what Wally's writing shows us, what his characters demand we learn, is that redemption isn't reserved for saints. It's available to anyone brave enough to be honest, to face their pain, to sit with it, and to choose something better, not because they deserve it, but because they need it. You have to choose empathy like a discipline, like a spiritual practice, like a muscle you build. Wally didn't just feel his way through these characters. He showed up day after day and said, what more can I understand about you? What more can I forgive in you? What more can I accept in myself because of you? That's not easy. That's holy. That's the kind of work that transforms people from the inside out. So if you're writing, or living, or trying to grow right now, hear me when I say this. Stop waiting to feel worthy before you let love in. Stop waiting to be flawless before you offer yourself grace. Start practicing empathy the way Wally Lamb did, by getting inside the stories, by asking better questions, by staying curious instead of cruel, and do it for others, yes, but more importantly, do it for the version of you that's still learning how to forgive themselves. Because that version of you, that's where the real story is. That's where the river starts. Let me know if you'd like to keep going with key point 5F in the same empowering, truth-filled voice. Creativity, as Survival Lamb realized, creativity isn't just an outlet. It's a lifeline that pulls you through darkness into growth. Wally Lamb discovered something powerful while writing The River is Waiting that his past didn't have to be his prison, that his pain didn't have to be his identity, that the chapters he once tried to avoid were actually the very chapters that could set him free, and that realization didn't come from some breakthrough moment. It came from the slow, grueling, unfiltered process of facing the parts of himself he'd long tried to outrun, the memories, the shame, the moments where he hadn't shown up as the man he wanted to be. And instead of turning away, he turned toward them. He put them on the page, he gave them breath, he gave them meaning, and by doing that, he took back their power. So many of us walk around with stories buried in our bones. Stories we've locked up and labeled too dark, too embarrassing, too painful to revisit. But here's the truth. What we bury grows, it festers, it controls us in ways we don't even realize. Wally realized that the only way to stop those hidden truths from driving his life was to look them in the eye. To write them out. Not just for others to read, but for himself to finally understand. Because you can't heal from a wound you pretend doesn't exist. You can't grow through a life you're too afraid to examine, and it's not about blaming the past. It's not about pointing fingers or drowning in self-pity. It's about owning it, every choice, every silence, every scar. Wally wasn't afraid to say, yes, that happened. Yes, I was there. Yes, it hurt. And yes, I'm still standing. That's strength. That's not weakness. That's how you reclaim your story, not by rewriting history, but by giving it a new meaning, a deeper purpose, a human context. He showed that we don't heal by erasing the past. We heal by redeeming it. You've got to be brave enough to face the places that still make your voice shake. Brave enough to sit with your younger self and not judge them, but understand them. Wally did that. He revisited the version of himself that felt helpless, that felt ashamed, that felt like he'd never be enough, and he didn't mock that boy. He didn't shame him. He wrapped his arms around him through every sentence, every character, every moment on the page. He said, you're part of me too. You're not my failure. You're part of my becoming. That's how you integrate your past into your strength, because your power is not in what happened to you, it's in how you rise from it. It's in what you choose to do with the pain. Are you going to let it silence you? Or are you going to let it sharpen you? Are you going to let it keep you small? Or are you going to use it as a platform to help someone else feel seen? Wally chose the second path. He used his pain to light the way for others. He turned his trauma into testimony, his regret into reflection, his silence into service. That's not easy. That's sacred work. But here's the key. You can't do that work if you're still pretending, if you're still putting on the mask every day, if you're still acting like you've got it all figured out. The world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your presence. It needs your truth, that part of you that says, I've been there, I've messed up, I've carried guilt that nearly crushed me, but I'm still here and I'm choosing to rise. That's what Wally's writing taught us. That survival isn't just about what you live through. It's about what you learn from it. What you make from it. Who you become because of it. The old version of you, yeah, they might have made mistakes. They might have stayed silent when they should have spoken up. They might have broken someone's heart. They might have let themselves down, but they were surviving with what they knew at the time, and now. Now you know more. Now you've grown. Now you've got the tools and the awareness and the fire to do it differently. Wally didn't write from the place of I've always had it together. He wrote from the place of I've learned the hard way. And because of that, every word landed like truth. Like medicine, like freedom. So I need you to understand. Your past is not a curse. It's not a stain. It's not something to edit out. It's the soil, the roots, the place where the real growth begins. Wally Lamb's courage to face himself, to look back with eyes wide open, is what gave him the clarity to move forward with integrity. You don't get that kind of clarity by hiding. You get it by being honest. With the mirror. With the memories, with the moments you wish you could forget. And that kind of honesty, that's where transformation begins. Let me know if you want me to bring that same bold fire into Key Point 6F, and we'll take this journey even deeper. Legacy through storytelling, he came to understand that every story told authentically contributes to a collective healing, a ripple effect far beyond himself. Wally Lamb's journey didn't end when he closed the final chapter of The River is Waiting That's actually where the most important work began. Because after writing, after healing, after confronting all the shadows of his past and the weight of his empathy, he was faced with the one thing many people run from: responsibility, not the kind the world assigns you. Not bills or jobs or tasks. I'm talking about the sacred responsibility of sharing what you've learned, of turning your personal growth into collective guidance. Wally understood that if his words stayed locked in a book, then they were just stories. But when he spoke them, when he lived them, when he offered them to the world, then they became a bridge for others to cross into their own healing, and this is where most people freeze. This is where fear kicks in. Who am I to speak? Who am I to teach anyone? I'm still healing. I'm still figuring it out. But that's exactly why your voice matters, because the world doesn't need perfect teachers. It needs wounded healers. It needs voices that are cracked open with truth. It needs the kind of honesty that makes other people exhale and say, me too, I thought I was alone. Wally took that risk. He didn't show up with answers. He showed up with authenticity. And in doing so, he gave others permission to show up too. You don't have to be famous. You don't need a platform. You don't need credentials. You need courage, the courage to stand in front of your life and say, this is what I've learned, and if it helps even one person, then I've done something good with my pain. That's what Wally Lamb did. He turned the personal into the universal. He looked at the pages of his life, some beautiful, some messy, and instead of hiding them, he offered them. That takes guts. That takes humility. That takes a level of soul honesty that not many people are willing to walk with. But you can. You absolutely can. What are you sitting on that someone else needs? What truth are you whispering to yourself at night that someone else is desperate to hear out loud? Your journey is not for nothing. Your pain was not pointless. It can become purpose if you choose to let it. If you choose to rise, not just for yourself, but for the person 2 steps behind you, still in the dark, looking for a light you already carry. That's what it means to take ownership, to turn survival into service, to turn lessons into leadership. Wally didn't just publish a book, he taught. Through his words, through his vulnerability, through the raw human truths in every character, he became a guidepost. And not a guidepost that says, I have it all figured out, but one that says, come as you are. You're not broken, you're becoming. That's the kind of leadership the world is starving for. The kind that doesn't shame people for being lost, but walks beside them until they find their footing again. If you've been through something, if you've come out the other side of a dark night with even a flicker of clarity, you owe it to the world to speak. You owe it to your younger self. You owe it to the people who are praying for hope but don't yet have the words. Your story is the medicine someone else is waiting for, and it doesn't have to be told perfectly. It just has to be real. You don't need to wrap it in a bow. You just need to say, this is what I lived through. This is how I found my way, and if I can, maybe you can too. Because what Wally teaches us is that art is not just self-expression, it's soul transmission. It's one heart reaching out to another in the dark saying, you're not crazy, you're not weak, you're human. And that kind of connection, that's where change happens, not in institutions, not in lectures. In truth. In real conversations. In books passed from hand to hand with notes in the margins. in quiet moments when someone reads your story and finally feels seen. So I'm telling you, don't hide. Don't wait until you feel worthy. Don't wait until you think you're ready. Start now, share now, teach now. Live as if your life is the lesson someone else needs, because it is. Wally Lamb owned his story so fiercely that it started to set others free. You can do the same, not because you're flawless, but because you're honest. Not because you have all the answers, but because you've been there. And maybe that's the most powerful thing we can ever offer each other. Not perfection, not advice, but presence, proof that we've survived, proof that pain is not the end, proof that the river waits . And when we stop running, when we finally show up, it carries us to where we're meant to be. Let me know if you want a recap of all key points F, or help turning this into a full structured speech draft.